Welcome to Let's Talk Sport and Sports Keyed. And on this topic, we're actually going to look back at the Nations League, which is, I guess it's a major tournament now. I don't know. It felt a bit weird. It literally started from the semis and then we got to the final and there was even a third place playoff, which sadly England were featured in. They weren't in the final and they beat Switzerland on penalties. Penalties, goalless after extra time. Why couldn't we have done that against Netherlands and took them to penalties the other night? No, our defence let in two terrible goals the other night against the Netherlands. And at the end of it all, it's Portugal that won. And it was, well, they beat the Netherlands, in which, in my eyes, the Netherlands is still a growing team. But Portugal go on to win. It's another major, I guess if it does count, it's another trophy for Portugal after winning Euro 2016. Cristiano Ronaldo lifting the trophy as the captain. But really, I think what we want to look at is, because we're all English here, unless one of you are Welsh, and then get out of here right now, or Scottish, get out of here right now.
I was technically born in Wrexham, but I don't know
the
language. So
get out. Oh, actually,
I was never bought a Wales shirt or anything like that. I was always brought up to support England. So
you didn't do Ryan Giggs.
I'm a Chester lad.
Chester lad. So am I, Joe. So am I. But chaps, looking at England, this was kind of like a warm-up ahead of the Euros in 12 months' time. It's going to be across Europe. The final and the semi-finals take place at Wembley Stadium, which gives us a good advantage if we can get that far. But lads, after last week's performance in the Nations League, I can't see England winning Euro 2020. I think we might have a good chance, but we say that before any major tournament, even if we have the shittest team around. Conor, what did you think of England last week? Because I feel like that was a golden opportunity to win that thing.
Yeah, I definitely think it was. And I think if England had won it, it would have been taken very seriously as a major international tournament victory for the first time since 1966. But I think because England lost it, it's more or less been shoved underneath the carpet and we'll move on to the European qualifiers once they come around in September. Just looking at other things as well from the fact that the final, the third place final, they didn't have any medal ceremony for the third place winners afterwards. Everyone's pretty much going to get a medal when they go back to St George's Park, probably later this year in September. When they'll probably do like an official medal ceremony then and like broadcast on their YouTube channel, England YouTube channel, something like that, I imagine.
Clearly in charge of the media content there, with what you're saying.
Sorry, say that again.
You're clearly in charge of the media content for England. You got it all planned out, haven't you? For September?
But that's what I would do if it was me. But nevertheless, moving on. But yeah, going on what you said, can England win Euro 2020 from a performance like that? I think there's hope that they can, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I think even if we got through to the final and played against Portugal, I don't think we would have won that game either. I think Portugal is still a very good team from the side that won Euro 2016. And I think as well, the Netherlands would be able to beat us pretty much 90% of the time, I think, as well, because they've got a quality in midfield. Frank de Jong just orchestrates it fantastically well. And I think that's the kind of player that England is missing. They mentioned it quite a few times on the commentary too. That England's really missing this kind of talisman and key player in the midfield that can orchestrate the attack, almost be like a point guard in basketball, deciding where players go, feeding the passes through to them and being that kind of driving force in midfield to get everyone going up front and bring it out from the defence as well, because that we were missing throughout the entire game, in my opinion. We've got plenty of players that can fill up that rank. It's just whether or not can they step up to the mark in a year's time. Phil Foden, for example, quality player at Manchester City, but doesn't really get a lot of game time. So there's a questions about whether or not he would be able to fit the bill in a year's time. And also got Mason Mount, spent some time on loan, bit of a different player than Phil Foden, spent some time on loan at Derby last season, looking to make his mark at Chelsea this season if he stays at the football club. But he's still waiting for his first England cap. So there's a couple of players that can fill that role. It's just whether or not they'll be able to step up by this time next year.
Joe, I feel as though when I watched that Netherlands game with England, I looked at the match and think this is anyone's. Like when it got to extra time, it just felt like a goal could come out of nowhere and they'll win the game, whoever scored for either side. But I looked at the England side and thought there's something missing. But I also looked at the Dutch team and thought there's something missing, because they're rebuilding. The Netherlands haven't been in a major tournament since Euro 2014. Sorry, the World Cup 2014. They missed out on Euro 2016 and last summer's World Cup. And the Dutch team, as I mentioned, are rebuilding, but they're missing someone up front. I was saying to someone the other day, like they're missing a Robin van Persie or Ruud van Nistelrooy or Bergkamp up front, providing the goals. Memphis Depay for me is still not performing. I know he's doing well at Marseille, but that's the French league. Doesn't mean anything to me. Or Lyon. But even so, the French league, that means nothing to me. Joe, do you feel as though because we couldn't take that chance, there's some problems there for Gareth Southgate? I mean, can I just say, our defence of Kyle Walker and John Stones were utter garbage. And I thought Kyle Walker, I still think he's overrated. And John Stones has had problems since he joined Man City, where he's had good games for under Pep Guardiola. But why does he keep playing Vincent Kompany instead? Let me ask Joe. I asked Joe. Come on.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again?
Well, no, I'm just saying, what's the problem with England right now? Because you look at John Stones and Kyle Walker, is that a problem going ahead of next summer? Because you can't make mistakes like that. And I know Gareth Southgate's the manager, but you can't keep playing the ball backwards. If you play the ball backwards, make a mistake, then you're going to most likely give away a goal. What do you think to that, Joe?
Well, I don't think John Stones is a very good ball-playing centre-half anyway. Some people might disagree with that, I don't know. But I think...
But does that need to change?
Oh, I think it's something that will stem from club level and then into international level. I think it's something that Pep's going to work on with him during pre-season and ahead of the new season. Yeah, at Manchester City, because obviously he likes to play it out from the back. And I think Kyle Walker, he's one of those £50 million worth for a right back. Has he really set the world alight at City? No, not really. I know I'm biased with being a Liverpool fan, but when you're outshone by a 20-year-old right back who's just won the Champions League, let me get that in there because we did not do any content last week, and I think you ran away into hiding being a Manchester United fan yourself.
I was in Portsmouth. There's a good reason why.
But yeah, when you got
tried to stay safe as I can.
And Aaron Wan-Bissaka didn't make the squad. Obviously, he's in the under-21s. You're looking at those two pushing Kyle Walker because Kieran Trippier didn't make the squad. Because he didn't really perform that well this season for Tottenham Hotspur, you could argue. I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Didn't Trippier play for England in the Nations League?
I'm sure he didn't make the squad.
I'm sure he played. I'm sure he did,
Trent Alexander-Arnold played.
No, he didn't make the squad, I don't think.
He didn't make the squad.
No.
I'll double check, but you keep going.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting in the right back front. I think John Stones, he can there's something he could work on playing out from the back. Obviously, he was at fault for the first goal. Was it the first goal? Remember that? I'm getting confused now. And Ross Barkley with the other. So
it came off the deflection, off Walker, and then it went in from that. Yeah.
So obviously the first goal, John Stones playing from the back, mistaken, and obviously Kyle Walker deflected into net, and then the second goal was a Ross Barkley mistake, again playing out from the back. It's the risk you take playing from the back. Obviously, it's something England will have to work on in the future. But to be honest, looking into this tournament, it wasn't a tournament that I was that bothered about. If we won it, great. If we didn't, oh well, that's life. I'm not bothered by it because I'm used to it as an England fan who's not winning major tournaments. Come on, not won anything since '66. That is major. Obviously, we won that. Is it the Toulon tournament when? In the 90s, we won that, but that doesn't really count because no one talks about that. But yeah, it's not surprising. I thought Holland would win it, and then obviously in the final, I thought the Dutch would have done a lot better than they did. But it's just one of those tournaments I'm not really that bothered about, to be honest.
I wasn't really surprised that Portugal won, but I think they had a home advantage. They had clearly a lot more fans there when it's in Portugal. But I still feel like Netherlands are missing something. But at the same time, you look at that defence of Netherlands of Van Dijk and De Ligt. I mean, De Ligt scoring a header against England the other night, but straight away, John Stones didn't track back at all. He let him go right in front of him for that corner. I just feel as though John Stones is missing. But I think John Stones is a promising player. Don't get me wrong. But I just worry that because Pep Guardiola hasn't been playing him recently, has he had injuries, Conor, or has he been actually okay for the last few months?
No, he's had an injury, but it's not like a long spell out or anything like that. It's just been a few games.
I mean, obviously now the new season ahead for Man City, there's no company there now, so surely for John Stones, he's going to be a regular again with the Port. So what if not? And he looks at another defender, Pep Guardiola. Is this where John Stones should look at it and think, maybe I need to find another club?
No, because he's not the problem when it comes to England. The problem is in the midfield. It's clear to see that it's in the midfield. Constantly in the 2 games that they played in this tournament, they struggled to play out through the midfield. The defence was fine. Look in the second game when Harry Maguire and Joe Gomez came into the defence, absolutely fine. In the majority of the Netherlands game, except for the closing 10 minutes of regulation plus extra time, the defence of John Stones and Kyle Walker was absolutely fine. It's the midfield that simply just isn't good enough, and that's why I don't like
who's
this
to blame?
criticism.
Who's to blame then in midfield?
John Stones still gets his blame, but you know, the thing is to blame in the midfield is that they haven't got this playmaking ability midfielder that England desperately needs in order to play from the back. Southgate's tactics is not going to change anytime soon. It's not going to change drastically over the next year to fix that problem. What we need is to bring a player into the squad like Phil Foden that can be that midfield and talisman, that playmaker and ability kind of player that can get the forwards involved in the game from playing out from the back. John Stones, yes, I agree with you. Not a great defender, not England's best defender, but he is a good defender. He's not going to be starting next year in the European Championships unless he ups his game. But he wasn't the drastic problem that England needs to fix. England don't need to fix their defence. They've got a fine defence in Harry Maguire, Joe Gomez, Trent Alexander-Arnold filling in on the right-hand side now instead of Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier, because quite honestly, Alexander-Arnold's fantastic. The amount of crosses he was putting in the other day looked like watching David Beckham again. You know, this is the key issue, and everyone seems to be going slating into Kyle Walker and John Stones, where that's not where the criticism needs to lie. Criticism for me needs to lie in midfield, and we need to sort out that midfield, in my opinion, because if we're entering the tournament next year with Fabian Delph, Ross Barkley, and Eric Dyer in the midfield, then I'm not hopeful at all. I'm hoping that Rubens Loftus-Cheek, you know, injured out at the moment, I'm hoping he comes back really quickly and can get into that Chelsea team and can get himself going before the summer championships, because he might be the player that is the ultimate difference between England winning the European Championships and losing out in the semi-final once more.
Well, at least we can agree that we both thought Ross Barkley was poor as well, because I didn't understand the hype. I was at a pub on Thursday night Thursday night when England had played, and I must admit, when I was watching Ross Barkley, I thought, what's he actually doing? He's invisible. And then someone next to me was saying, oh, he's having a great game. I'm thinking, what are you watching?
Yeah, England have got this great core at the moment. You know, beforehand, about 2 years ago, it was only really like the likes of Harry Kane that was the really solid piece and the world-class kind of player in the squad. But now they've got the likes of Raheem Sterling shining through, Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, Jadon Sancho. There's plenty of players to build around, and they've got up-and-coming talent as well that's developing a little bit further, like Marcus Rashford and Joe Gomez. It's just now we need to get this midfielder into spot to take this team to the next level, because really, when you look at those players, none of those can fit that kind of midfielding role that we need. And to be honest with you, there's not a player that you can name right now that you can say, yes, he is basically who, you know, Iniesta was to Spain and things like that. You know, it's something that England needs desperately, and they don't have it at the moment.
Joe, final thoughts? Can England win Euro 2020?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. You got stronger teams. I know France lost to Turkey the other night, but they're still strong. They're world champions. You got Spain that are on the up again. You got Germany didn't have a good World Cup, but they'll be coming back strong. You got so many. You got a list of teams, and say the Netherlands, say they qualify, and obviously Portugal will qualify. You look at those teams. That's what's 5 that I just reeled off the top of my head that are better than England. Come on, England. They've got the potential of home advantage if they get to the semi-finals and final, with Wembley and all that lot. But we had our chance at the World Cup last summer where we made the semi-finals. We had the easier, quote unquote, easier side of the draw. You look at it, we had the last 16 against Sweden. The last 16 we got through, and then against Colombia. Sorry, remember me trying to go back a year, and then you got Sweden in the quarterfinals. Beat those two.
Thing is, though, I don't like it when
bottled it against Croatia. That was our chance.
But I don't like it when we say they're easier, because we've got no history of winning trophies. You know, like we can always say the Sweden game. I thought that was a big win, because I thought at the time Well, no, we have to prove ourselves. We haven't proven in the last few years that we are a good team. We're still a team that are rebuilding. I'm just saying because English fans kept saying we had an easy side of the draw. Well, we underestimated Croatia. And, well, we deserved to lose. We weren't awake throughout the whole game. We after the first half, we lost it. I thought, and I think now we're still a team that need to prove ourselves before we go out to Euro 2020 and actually believe we can win. But anyway, we must
third place playoff when we just fell apart against Belgium and Hazard put on a masterclass. It's major games against big opposition in a major tournaments. England fall apart. Yeah, we lost three games.
We lost three games. We weren't that great. We weren't that great.
Yeah,
we got to the semis. That's the only difference.
Because we had the quote unquote easier side of the draw. Not saying it was easy, but it was easier than the opposite side if we'd finished first in the group.
And we want to be in France, let's be honest. We want to be in France. Anyway, we're going to wrap up. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more of our content.